Hey guys, welcome back to the Derek Lake podcast. If you're on video, as you can tell, things are a lot different today. First being, I'm not in a backwards basketball or baseball hat and a t-shirt. So we told you in January we're going to do a lot of changes, mainly because my life. I'm changing a lot of things in my life for the better, and I'm really excited about it. And I'm going to share the biggest change today. And with my mentor, he's been on the podcast before at the time as a friend, and now he is on a mentor and a boss level with me. So I'll introduce Arif Halaby. How's it going, Arif?
Hi, well, thanks. The boss, I'm a little scared about that.
You were not there yet?
Yeah, well, it's a big shoes to fill, as they say. So.
No, I'm so excited for everything that we're doing. I almost like get emotional when I think about, everything that you're really putting some stuff out there. So you're taking some risk on me and everything we're going to do in St. George. And we'll get into that so people kind of understand what I'm talking about. But maybe I'll let you kind of introduce yourself a little bit, what you do for work, your financial professional, and so forth.
I guess a little bit of background, starting from, in my early 20s, 21, I became a Los Angeles police officer. And at that time, that was my career. I thought life was good. But I was still an investor and a saver from the time I was 18 years old. 23, we got married, bought our first home. By 25 or 26, we had about $150,000 saved. Life was good. Year or two later, I got injured in the police department. Somebody blew a stop sign, crashed in my police car after multiple back and knee surgeries. Ultimately, I had to retire. During that window of time, I got scammed and they stole all my money. So 3 different scams over the course of, months. And I was a smart guy. They knew I carried a gun. I was a police officer. Well, I had to retire from the police department to a pension that was very, very little. It wasn't even enough to pay my mortgage. So here I am 11 years post beginning the police department, thinking my career was one way, and here and injured and having to start all over again. So I share that with you because I had to find out what happened to me. Like, I thought I was the smart guy and nobody was afraid of me to rip me off. So how much more must they be ripping off other people?
Right.
So I went back to school for a year or two, a couple of years actually, and finished that process and started in the financial services industry. So becoming a financial professional as a career was something I turned out I was pretty good at, and that was 28 years ago. So today we now have a successful firm in Southern California, in St. George, Utah. But in that journey, you learn a couple of things. One, you learn how to gauge people, right? As a police officer, when you do any kind of undercover work or interviewing suspects, all of those kinds of things, you learn to judge people. That's number one. Number two is in the financial services world, you also have to make similar judgments and predictions and understandings of people. So my discussions and interviews with you over the time, and then friends, and we hired you to do some work around the house, but your knowledge in the financial world was above average of the normal, if you will, business owner. All business owners have to have a little bit of understanding of financial knowledge. You don't find those people every day. And so I found that was the kind of person you were. So I said, hey, Derek, this is something that maybe we can do together. So we started considering a couple of ideas. I talked with my wife. I said, we're expanding our company in St. George. What do you think about hiring Derek? Well, we had spent a little time with you and your family. And part of the strength of understanding people is to sit back and watch, right? You watch how people treat people that they have nothing to gain from. Waiters at a restaurant, right? Food servers, maids if you're at a hotel. Those kinds of folks, people that have to work and have to serve, and that's their job. So you passed all those tests, and we thought to ourselves, my wife and I, and this might be something that can work. It's not an easy process to change careers. I was about your age, actually, maybe a little younger when I changed my career and had to start over. But in that process, I had a great mentor and somebody that would teach me and guide me, and that made all the difference in the world. They did some things they didn't teach me. I had to learn the road of hard knocks, as they say. So it's a bit of a long story, but through that journey, we've come to say, hey, we should partner up and have you work for our firm and grow. And this is our new office. Almost done. We got a few little things we got to figure out. the copier and some of the stuff on the wall, but it's coming along.
Yeah, when people ask me how we got hooked up, I just tell them the first time I ever met you, we sat for hours. I think we were 2 or 3 hours and just talking about different things. And for me, I've always wanted to learn. And growing up, I got through it, but I'm not sure I was ever like taught hard principles of different things. I was taught how to be a good person. I was taught how to treat people right, right from wrong. But financially, growing up, taxes, business, all that stuff. My brother Adam helped me through some stuff in the beginning, and then it's kind of just been potholes that I had to either fall in or avoid the next time they come up. So at the time, your schedule was like in and out of Utah, week here, gone a couple weeks, back for a couple weeks. And I would just find myself texting you like, hey, when are you coming back into town? Because I wanted to go to dinner or wanted to talk or even just ride around with you in your truck. So that kind of got to be my thing, was like, is your passenger seat empty?
Yeah.
And I just want to ride around with you. And I never thought it would get to this. Like, that wasn't the point. I wasn't trying to, I don't know a better word than, this wasn't my whole thought in the beginning. It was more just kind of a mentor and learn from you. And I think you're at a part too with your life right now that you have so much knowledge that it was fulfilling for you to share a lot of that with me. And I'm hungry for it. And so I talk a lot. And I've had a lot of people mention when I'm with you, they're like, do you ever talk?
Yeah.
And I'm like, not when I'm with Arif. I kind of just shut up and listen.
Well, think of it like this. The foundation of everything, whether it's a building or a home, a business, a church, a family. If the foundation isn't proper, then the rest of it doesn't matter. It'll fall over. I mean, you can use that metaphor throughout, bridges and buildings, and you can visually see things collapse when an earthquake or a flood or something comes through. What you can't visibly see until it's too late is the foundation of a family. And so when you see, well, I'll tell you, when my wife and I saw the interaction and the respect that you had with your brother, where we spent some time in the holidays together, and we were at one of your brother's homes and his family, and kind of everybody was there. That was a very powerful thing, because you don't see it. You just call it normal. But remember, I've dealt with probably tens and tens of thousands of people over the years. So there's little clues and little things that happen along the way to say this person has a level of respect with the family. So what was missing wasn't the foundation. What was missing is the knowledge, right? So I think the way you would represent yourself, your family, and our company through this process would be in an honorable way. And that's very powerful, because to give the reins of the firm to somebody over the course of time that doesn't have that foundation is very scary.
Sure.
Right? I prefer just to shut it down. I'm 69 years old. See you later, right? So I'm still in my mid-50s. We got a long time for that to happen. But ultimately, there's always options. Family businesses, if you will, shut down all the time.
Sure.
Sometimes they pass them on, and the next generation didn't have a good foundation, and so they don't last very long. So a lot of this that takes place is about almost a methodical approach. So I think we have an amazing staff, great team of people. They run the back office of the firm. But to see clients, it's just what I do. I don't handle the behind the scenes paperwork, filing, and all the things that those guys are really good at, and frankly have systems in place that I don't even understand, because that's not my job. So what we're looking to do is to kind of grow the position that I have, which is people that kind of come along and learn how to develop and learn how to create those relationships, and then ultimately to build reliable retirement income for somebody, so I don't have to worry about the name of this person or our firm, being degraded over time.
Yeah. When I kind of thought about making the switch into this, I've had this thought in my head for a while, and I'll tell you where it started. With my safe store, I had one of our reps I was talking to. It wasn't even a rep. It was just a higher level person in one of the companies that build the products. And he kept asking me why I have a store, what my purpose is at the store. And I kept telling him, like, I love educating people. I love having the conversations, the interactions in the store. And hopefully they can walk away with, a personal relationship now and a product that will protect them. And he's like, no, 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 no. Why do you have a store? And I'm like, that's what it is. That's the whole thing. No, why do you have a store? And and it was like frustrating me. I'm like, no, I'm being honest with you. That's why I have the store. And he says, you have the store to make money.
Yeah.
And it like froze me for a second. And I thought, that's not why I have the store. Like, I know how to make money. I've made money since I was 12, right? Like, I can trade my time for money. I know how to do that. And I've done it for a long time. And it just kind of hit me like, am I in the right business here? Is this really helping people? Or no, do I think it is?
So this is very important. You can plug and play somebody who's a good business owner. It's why somebody like Elon Musk owns businesses that would seemingly be unrelated. Virgin Atlantic, right? Richard Branson, he has businesses that are unrelated. Virgin Mobile, airlines, cruise ships. I mean, these are not necessarily related things. The change that comes in, where that really makes a difference, is when that person understands basic business principles and then is in a place that makes a difference.
Right.
Because I think you could sell all sorts of things, car washes and soda pop, and none of those things are bad. But it gives an immediate gratification, and then the first time you drive through and a bug hits your windshield, the whole thing is all over again.
Yeah.
From a business standpoint, you're like, great, they need to come in and use my services one more time. I think when you understand the financial services industry and then you understand people, you see, after a while, you'll realize how the proper value of money. You see, poor people think money is the end all be all. I say, hey, if you had $1 million, I would buy this, I would buy that, I would buy this, and I would give money to my sister. She's always struggling. I would help her. My brother, he's always struggling. It's completely the wrong thing to do.
Right.
It's the reason that they don't have money is because the decisions they make when they do have money are wrong. Now you might say, gosh, so what, do you not like their brother or sister? No. It's the same thing when I meet with the client and they say, okay, I have 3 kids. I always ask, are they good kids? They're like, oh, what do you mean? I go, are they good people? Are they good kids? Are they decent human beings? Yeah, they're great. Sometimes one of them is not. Sometimes the others are. And when I say, okay, how do you want to leave this? Well, that one is always struggling. I say, you should leave them nothing. They go, what do you mean by that? They're the ones that need it the most. How much money have they made in their lifetime? Oh, I don't know. Let's just say $500,000. 10 years making $50,000 a year, maybe more. 20 years making $20,000 a year. They probably made over $500,000 has come through their hands. Then when you ask that person, how much do you have in your savings account? And they go, $374. You go, you understand that you've made everybody else rich. You see, the poor mindseted person, when they receive money, will spend it on things that go down in value. So, or for services. The dry cleaner, his kids are going to have a great college. Don't worry about him. Oh, don't worry. The liquor store owner, they're going to take a great vacation. Oh, the restaurant that you go to all the time, they have an amazing home. Who worked for you? You say, oh, I worked for me. No. You worked for stuff. You didn't work for yourself. You see, the poor person works for stuff first, and if there's anything left over, saves for themselves. The rich mindset person is completely different. They work for things that go up in value. Then if there's anything left over, then they spend it on stuff. But poor mindset people think rich people are just nothing but consumers. And they're not. It's the opposite.
Right.
The consumer part of what a wealthy person does is things that are after, not before. And so when you're looking at this as a business owner, and if you just plug and play that business owner into a variety of businesses, they will have some level of success, and it might be a larger hamster wheel, but unless they understand that value of taking and going to the next level, then they just end up becoming a business owner with more debt, maybe more things, but not more wealth.
Yes. When I started making the transition to this, I was thinking, what in my life has happened that I could benefit or teach someone through this? And people that know my story, my dad committed suicide, a handful of years ago, and my mom left my mom with nothing. He was remarried at the time, so he wasn't currently married to my mom when he died, but it got me thinking about life insurance. It got me thinking about a lot of financial things. And And in my life, like I was mentioned in the beginning, I wasn't necessarily taught any of this stuff, mainly because the knowledge wasn't there for my parents. For lack of better words, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And going through my dad's death and a good friend of our family's death that was young and had kids, it started making me think like, okay, these are a lot of things you got to put in motion at the same time we were having a son. And so it was a lot of these things that happened within like 5 years of each other. And it made me start thinking, I know how to make money, but how do we, the generational wealth part is what kind of started churning. And I still don't even know if I know what that is.
Yes.
But it's a term that I've been trying to figure out and learn. And it may be different for everybody, a generational wealth definition. I don't know. I'm kind of working on it.
Is what you teach your kids is normal. So my dad made it very clear. He had a variety of friends, ambassadors, literally from two different countries that were friends. They would come to his home, a modest home, 1,200 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. He would have other people that he would help out that were struggling financially. He would have folks that were what we would call today mentally ill, that he was getting into to help and treatment. I mean, he had a variety of people, wealthy people, millionaires, billionaires, doctors, people across the board. People that at one point owned one of the top 20 largest diamonds ever found in the world. Was a close friend of my dad. I mean, these are pretty powerful things, and it didn't change him. Now, what that means is he surrounded himself with people and called it normal. So he would never be super impressed when he would meet somebody. He would just go, "Oh, it's nice to meet you." It didn't matter. What kind of a person are you? Right? You see, this is the biggest mistake that's happening right now, is people are given something or taken things away from them for things they can't control. Right? I can't control my race. I can't control my gender. I can't control my height. So when you give something or take something from somebody for those things, right? Give something to somebody because they're black or they're Native American. Take somebody because they're white or because they're tall, they get to play in the NBA. Take something from them. Sorry, you can't. Right? Some things you will say is merit, is what's called merit. But other things, what does that have to do with my wealth or success or happiness? If I never made it past 7 foot tall, I can manage the players, right? In other words, if my love is basketball and something that I can't control happens, you don't say, and you're going to be broke the rest of your life. You just kind of pivot. If somebody says, I'm African American or I'm Native American, you look and say, what's the strengths that I have? That's one of the biggest mistakes people make right now, is they take something from you. You want to create problems. Start putting people in buckets. Well, you've heard me say this. I mean, our radio show, right? Harvard and Yale have black dorms. They have black graduations. You're supposed to be the thought leaders of tomorrow. And for 2 decades, you've been running segregation that Martin Luther King and his contemporaries did everything they could do to keep it apart. Like, well, that's not what we want. Judge somebody by the content of their character. Today you say that you're a racist.
Yeah.
So now you have a choice. One day you'll be a wealthy person. It's not debatable. Provided you make it, God willing, you'll be a wealthy person. Whether it's 5 years or 15 years, I don't know. It's up to you. When that happens, there'll be a responsibility on you. Because it's different. It's different when you have a little bit of money. People will say money doesn't matter. It's not true. Right? The operations, if you create a financial firm where you can give people choices, then it isn't like, oh, well, we can't eat there because we don't have money. Or let's look at the right side of the menu and order accordingly. Or let's stay at this hotel that's in a tough neighborhood instead of this one that's a 5-star. Let's drive this car. It's not my car of the dreams, but it's reasonable and it's nice and it gets good gas mileage. You justify being broke or poor in your mindset. But in the financial world, I can change that. I can give people income that surpasses everything that they needed. And now they can make choices. Now they can take all of their grandchildren on a cruise and not say, well, if I do that, then I can't do this. So the choices and options that you have by making the playing field level, where it doesn't matter their race or religion or how tall they are, you can create a financial life for people where their choices are built on their actions. their decisions, their character, their integrity. That's a change. Instead of saying, sorry, you work in this job, you're stuck making this money, you can never leave that neighborhood, you have to drive this car. It's about financial knowledge. Today, everybody makes money. There's so much money floating around, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. We
much.
see that every day.
Oh my gosh. You've sat and, you've now worked with us for months now. You've sat down and seen people come in and they look the same. The guy's worth $3 million.
Right.
Or he has $100,000 sitting in, his checking account and $400. It doesn't change who he is. So that goes back to the kind of the foundation. I never wanted to make somebody wealthy or help somebody become wealthy through an income strategy if they were not good people, right? I'm never going to make you rich, but I'm going to keep you from being broke. But I can increase your income, which means you can live a better lifestyle. But if you're a son of a gun, why would I do that? Right? So you now have the ability to have a financial foundation to where you can pick and choose who I'm going to work with.
Right.
No, thank you. Yes, no, I don't really like you. Instead of most people, it doesn't matter their life, right? If they're a mechanic, they'll be abused by their client or their customer because they need the business. If you're a restaurant owner and somebody's a jerk, you'll still be nice to them and keep them because you need the business. I never wanted to be that person, right? I was a Los Angeles police officer for almost 11 years. I had to work with people that were jerks. I've had them say everything that you can imagine about me, my mom, my sister, my wife, even if I was married or not at the time, it didn't matter. They always had something to say, and if you took it personally, it was just the way, right? You didn't have a long career. So it didn't matter to me. But I knew that if I could help somebody who was a good person and keep them from having a bad day or a bad life, it can make a difference for generations, right? There's people out there whose lives are way better because I came across them in my 10 years. I'm not saying this to brag about me, but it's just some of the choices the way I chose to be in law enforcement, whose lives are way better because of me. And they'll never know my name. They never know who I am. They just know it was some guy in the uniform.
Right.
That's a very powerful thing. And now you get a chance to do this in Southern Utah with a mindset where you can help others. Sometimes they'll remember you. Most of the time they will, especially if it's local. But their kids or grandkids are going to have a better life because of you. They may not remember you. That's the kind of difference and impact that my dad had. He passed away last summer. So the kind of impact that he had, that's the kind of impact I want to have.
Yeah, the biggest thing I've been learning through all of this and hanging out with you is implementation. You hear about all the strategies, you hear all the words that everyone talks about, all the social media, but it's how do you implement all this? And there's times that you and I have sat down and I'm like, hey, I've heard of this and this and this, but how do you get from A to B? This is all, just words to me, and it all sounds great. What's the downfall? And so being able to strategy all of that stuff, for me personally, not even coming from the business side of it, but for me personally, that's what I want to learn. I think I know that's what I want to learn. It's what gravitates me to this. Because I think those are a lot of the steps that help you become and stay wealthy. And a few coaching groups I'm in, and even just my high school buddies, like I've got a text group that still goes around with my high school buddies. And I haven't been super vocal about all of this because first I wanted to make sure I could do it. And now I'm doing it. And there's a part, and I've gotten away from this now. In the beginning, I didn't want the safe store to struggle because I was kind of separating myself from it. And now I've gotten to the point where my mom's doing great over there. My mom's running all the day-to-day. And I've really just been here every day since. And it's going back to implementation. So that's a lot of what I've been learning. I've been texting buddies, hey, have you guys heard of this? Hey, have you heard of 529s? Have you heard of IRAs? Are you paying your kids? Are you going to all these things? And I'm starting to realize it's endless of how many people that I could reach out and help.
So think about this for a minute. Imagine when your dad passed away, if your mom had a $500,000 life insurance policy.
Right.
Not tens of millions, enough to be okay. right? Enough to still take care of her kids or her grandchildren or herself, right? When I told my wife, when we were both kids and we were broke and we were just getting started, and she was 20, when did I propose? She was 21 and I was 23, 22 when I proposed, something like that. And we were married a few months later, six months later. I told her I would take care of her forever. I said, if you marry me, I don't know what this journey is going to be like. All I know is that I will never give up and I will take care of you forever. Now that's a commitment that's left an open door that anything can happen.
Yeah.
But I knew, because I was already in law enforcement at the time, I knew that no matter what, I would take care of her and she would be fine. And our children one day would be fine. Well, how do you make that happen when you don't have $10 million in the bank or $1 million or whatever? You don't have a house paid off. How do you make it happen? You use a life insurance policy. Sometimes it's just a temporary thing. You're just renting it for 10 or 20 or 30 years while you're building up your wealth. Sometimes you're going to use it as a wealth strategy. So those things together, if just somebody knew it,
right?
Can you imagine the life change that would be? Now, instead of a child losing one parent and then the other one has to work 2 jobs, so now they lost both parents figuratively, and now they may even lose the home or the neighborhood that they were comfortable in and that they were safe in. I mean, think about the difference. People will laugh, oh, it's just life insurance. Not when I deliver a $500 or $250,000 or $1 million check. I've had people cry and shake. They lay on the floor. I mean, some dramatic things. And of course, I get emotional the whole process because they know that they're going to be okay. Because at one point in their life, their other spouse committed to them and said, no matter what, I'm going to take care of you. Doesn't matter what happens. I've got you.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that you have as a power with the licenses you have now and the ability you have now to almost throw a net and help others. Look, there's a lot of financial people in Southern Utah, and many of them are really good. That's great. What's different? It's simple. One, I think, is the understanding and the implementation of a strategy using 2 things. 2 is we're not going to lie to you and tell you we're going to make you rich. You see, any financial professional says, oh, I can make you money. I can make you 12%. I can make you rich. You go, first of all, I want to meet your parents.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you didn't make your mom and dad rich, then you're a son of a gun and I don't want to work with you.
Yeah.
Second, I want to make sure you're wealthy. Oh, you're not because you're working here 12 hours a day. I get it. So then you can't make me rich because you didn't even make the people that care about you more than I do. So what's the difference? You're just trying to sell me something. Oh, okay. Then let's just talk on that level.
Yeah, let's just leave it at that then.
Yeah, then I'm all right with that. But don't lie or play games. And that's what I have found is a lot of folks will use big rates of return and talk about fancy stuff that they really they're not great at. They might have taken a class or they're this deep on a lot of knowledge instead of that deep on something. Right? I want you to be an expert at something before you take on the next thing. You see, experts are what make a difference in people's lives. Generalists, they're nice. And for a lot of things, they're okay. But truly, to make a difference in somebody's life, I think being an expert in something.
Yeah, like your analogy you always go to with the doctors. If you break your leg and go to the general doctor, right? Or do you want to go to Amanda and have the orthopedic specialist, right? And that's a lot of what this is.
Yeah, and I remember the process of, I have 3 children and they all had different injuries over the years and different serious events and not so serious events. Our job was to find the best at what they did. And sometimes you'd go through 2 or 3 doctors or 2 or 3 medical practices or hospitals, whatever it would be. But you always wanted to find the expert. When it comes to reliable retirement income guarantees, no questions asked. When it comes to if I pass away, will my family be cared for? That's you. That's me. That's what we do.
Yeah, going through all of the training that I've done so far, it's a lot of it's not hard to understand. It's very, very, in the way that you guys teach it or we teach it, it's very, very simple. And I mean, one whiteboard. I can draw the entire thing out.
Yes.
And it's life-changing for the clients that can come in and do that. And one thing we were talking about the other day is it's interesting how you're always taught to put money aside for a retirement account. And so I'll kind of shift now to retirement account stuff. But then what? You know, since I was 18, I was told, you know, if they'll match 3%, put in 3%.
Yeah.
But what does that mean? And when I was at the post office, they would say, you know, for your thrift savings account, if you put into your thrift savings account, they match, or anyway, you put into these accounts, and then at the end of the day, I had one guy come and tell me he just retired, just moved into where I was delivering, and he wanted to come and meet me because I was his mail guy, I guess. And he sat there and told me I'm financially free now because I put money into my retirement account. He was a postmaster, I think, at some point when he retired.
That was in charge of a post office.
Yeah. And so he was just preaching to me, please, please, please put as much money as you can into your thrift savings. You'll be a millionaire when you retire. I have $1 million to all this stuff, right? But what does that mean? So, is it in my account? What is it?
Here's one of the mistakes people make. They think retirement accounts equal savings accounts. And what I have known over the years, as I start to see people retire, and of course, you know, for 28 years, we walked people through their lives. They didn't have children. Now they have grandchildren, on and on, all right? So this whole process of watching this happen is also noticing and recognizing mistakes. So what's the normal mistake, or at least the common mistake? They'll take a savings account, and then they have a retirement account, and they think retirement and savings are the same. They're not. If you have $1 million in a regular thrift savings account, which is a federal government program, or a 401k, which means you work for a for-profit company, similar ideas, you only own about half of that. The federal government and state government owns the difference. Well, what do you mean? I have $1 million. No, you don't. Because as soon as you take it out, you got to give 20, 30, 40% away. So in the end, you have about half of that. So when your brother or sister or mom or dad, cousin says, can I have $50,000 for a down payment on a house? We had this. She retired from a large hospital, had almost $1 million. It was like $980,000. And she said, I need $50,000-$60,000 for my brother. He had a house that was destroyed in one of the hurricanes in the South, so I need to give him $50,000. Okay. But what does it do? Based on her tax bracket, she had to pull out almost $90,000 because she had to pay taxes, she had to pay state and federal. The rest of her income was now taxed at a higher rate. So when this took place, to give her brother $50,000 or $60,000, she had to pull out over $90,000. Basically, her income for the rest of her life had a 10% decline.
Right.
So how many of you today want to go out and say, I can't wait to go to my work tomorrow because they just gave me a 10% decrease in pay? You would think that's crazy. But she took a 10% pay cut by thinking that her retirement account was her savings. It is not. Retirement accounts have one job. It's to give you an income stream. That monthly income every year, every month, every week, however you want it. And as it does that, the rest of it is supposed to stay behind and grow at a reasonable return. It's also supposed to give you consistency and predictability so you can live a life and enjoy things. Those two things really make a difference. Don't ever expect your retirement account to be your savings. It's an enormous mistake people make.
Yeah, the number one question you and I and everyone else in our firm talks about is, what's the purpose?
That's right.
What's the purpose of this money? And when clients come in, sometimes they don't even know. They think, well, I want to leave it to my kids. Okay, do you? You know, and you kind of go through those steps.
Yes.
And then what you've said is, when you die, I want this account to be empty. This is what you're supposed to be living on. And there are accounts that are set up to pass that money on too, but it's a different concept of, especially people retired now are living 30 years.
Well, think about it when it's down to who makes the rules, rich or poor people. Rich people have always made the rules.
Sure.
It doesn't matter if you're Cleopatra on the Nile River or Napoleon or Genghis Khan or the United States of America. Rich people have always made the rules to benefit themselves, their friends, and their family. You have a choice. You can stand up with the sign and protest, or you can actually understand the rules. In America, you can understand the rules, and it applies to you. Because believe it or not, it applies to everybody. You just have to figure it out. I know when I speak to a lot of my minority clients and minority friends, they go, it's not really true. I said, no, you don't understand. Frederick Douglass an escaped, not freed, escaped slave, was one of the wealthiest men in his day in colonial America in Washington, D.C. area. So what's the difference? He couldn't control that he was a slave. He couldn't control that he was black, but he could control that he got away and he ran. Not an easy thing, not a great decision for some, but he did it. The bravery, that courage, then said, now I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow, I'm going to read. So today with these silly phone things, right, and the internet, we can learn about anything.
Right.
So if rich people make the rules to benefit themselves, their friends, and their family, they always have, let's just see what the rules are. And can you live with them? Okay, so what do rich people do? What are the rules? They pass on life insurance and real estate to their children.
Why?
Because it's tax-free. Isn't that interesting?
Right.
Retirement accounts, you think, oh, I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm not going to save it. I'm not going to take that trip so that I can leave something for my children. My contention is, why don't you live on that and leave life insurance and real estate? Because that's how the rules are written. You can change them. You can go run it for Congress, whatever you want to do, and change them. Fine. Right now, and for as long as we can remember, that's the rules. So your retirement account is another source of income. The change is this. People think Social Security is supposed to be a substantial part of retirement income. It is not.
Right.
It is only supposed to keep you from being poor. It was welfare for senior citizens. Now people go, oh, all up in arms. How do you say that? I earned it. Well, they took your money for it, and they took your employer. So whatever you put into Social Security, remember, your employer also put in. Whatever you put into disability and workers' comp, your employer put in. So people forget that when it comes to all their benefits that they receive, Medicare, etc., their employers also put it in. So when you ask for a 10% pay raise, it usually costs them 15 or 20% because he has to increase the taxes, he or she, that they pay. So that's a side note, but don't forget all of those benefits that you put into are going to illegal aliens. They're going to people that never put into the system. They're not bad or evil. Maybe I would have tried to come here. I don't know. But it still doesn't make it right. So when you have people that have worked their tail off their whole life, and then the system turns around and says, we're going to take your money and give it to him. You're like, but he just got here. He's young and healthy. Why isn't he working? Why isn't he back in his own country trying to change things? That's what he should do. You don't like it? You go fight in your own country. But nope. And then come here legally. My dad, your ancestors, they all came from somewhere. But they came here legally. That's fine. But meanwhile, where's your Social Security, your Medicare, your workers' comp, and all of those things that you've been putting into all those years? It's not meant for you to have massive amounts of income. It's only meant for you to have a small portion. Less than a third is what it's meant to. So in other words, if you need $5,000 a month, it's really not supposed to be more than about, probably $1,200 or so, $1,500. The rest of it is where? It's supposed to be your savings, your retirement, your non-retirement money. Hopefully you have some rental property, you have some other investments. Right? Your goal is to be wealthy through multiple sources of income. Any financial professional who says, just give me all your money, I'm going to buy a bunch of mutual funds, in my opinion, is misguided. Usually broke themselves. In fact, if I had a financial professional I was working with, one of my very first questions is, do you still have student loan debt? Because that's one of the stupidest decisions you could ever make. I don't know, maybe that's right? We didn't like our kids saying the word stupid, so. But I changed my mind. Stupidest decisions you could make.
Yeah, going through, sitting with you, it's the multiple streams, I think, that it makes people light up when they see that. And like I'm thinking of one we had a couple days ago where they didn't even think that they had done a good job preparing.
I remember that.
And then at the end of it, they were making the same, if not more, than what they were making at their jobs.
Yeah, they needed around $7,500 a month to live comfortably. That was their words.
Yeah.
And based on what we could do as far as a guaranteed and the stream and kind of the multiple sources, it was nearly $10,000 or a little bit more than $10,000 a month.
And that's what they were doing, both working.
Yeah, they were shocked. They were like, whoa, wait a second. I go, you could retire today if you want. That's the most exciting thing for me is when I come to somebody and I go, you're done. They go, oh, well, we're going to work 2 more years. You can. You can work 20 more years if you want. But as far as have to, the race is over. You finished.
Right.
You crossed the finish line. You can keep running if you want, but you don't have to anymore.
And that's where that education part comes in, I think, for me and for other people, is when you're walking them through that, like you had told them, you already finished the race. You're already done. You did what you were supposed to do. And a lot of us are told we're supposed to do that, whether people do it or not. And like my dad, for instance, he put into retirement. He was 3-4 years away from full retirement. Mm. And in the last few years, he drained his entire retirement account. So there was nothing else there. And then he was 4 years away and he had committed suicide. And so it could have went, my mom could have never had to work a day in her life. It could have taken care of my younger sister, both of them health insurance for the rest of their lives. And there was a lot of different things that just went away.
The great news for you is that is what you needed to propel you down a direction of passion towards making a difference in people's lives. Because you lived it, you saw the difference. And here's a fascinating point that a lot of people may not completely understand. Find any business, right? The safe store, a grocery store, a spa, it doesn't matter. Any business can be run properly or improperly. And a financial business isn't any different. So a good financial professional understands not just what they do for their customers and their clients, but also how to manage a company properly. That's why we're very proud that for 28 years, TFS Financial Insurance Services and Total Financial Solutions has been a solid company that had been run properly. Of course, I was a crummy boss at the beginning because I didn't have anybody to teach me. I say that now, it's one of those AA meetings where you sit and you say, hi, I'm Arif, and I was a crummy boss 25 years ago. But we understand how to run a company so that it's here and will be here for as long as it needs to be. The process in this journey now for you and for other young financial professionals is to find that vein of purpose for you. Because math is math. Products are products. Solutions take some creativity. You have to understand not just what things are, but how they work. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the trade-off. A lot of financial professionals know the what because they can read the brochure, they take a class or whatever. But how they work and how to implement, that's a very different mindset. Almost like someone who likes puzzles and who can solve and look at something from a three-dimensional. It's part of the reason I think I was a good police officer. I wasn't a police officer of any heroic mention, but I was good in some areas, specifically in solving and thinking crimes or problems, looking at stuff a little bit differently, where I would pick it up and, kind of look at it from a couple of different angles. That helped me understand that there's always more than one dimension to something. In someone's life financially, they might say, well, I'm not comfortable with this. I have to keep working. Well, wonderful. Then why don't we set up the company in a way with our financial partners, attorneys and CPAs, and say, how do we structure this so that they're not ending up in a position where they pay higher taxes on money that they don't need to spend? Pay taxes on money you're going to spend. Stop paying taxes on money you're not going to spend.
Right. Yeah. If you're like for an example would be if you're in a CD and you're making money on the CD, you're paying taxes on that money that you're making, where we have other products that you don't have to. So if you're just letting that revolve in the same product over year after year after year, sure, you're making some, but you're also being taxed on it.
Yep, exactly.
And so,
and what people forget also, Derick, is that IRMAA tax. We talked about it with folks, and you had brought it up with one particular client recently, and that is that Medicare premium, that Medicare tax. Right? A lot of folks forget that the more income you make, even if you don't spend it, and it comes from your savings or your investments or your CDs, and you don't need it, it just sits there, it affects whether or not you pay a higher Medicare premium on Part B. It's a big deal.
Yeah, so there's some of those strategies of, right now, CDs are kind of popular because they're getting 4.5%, 5%, something like that. But you're also paying tax on that, and it's making you pay more for Medicare. So there's some double-edged swords, and we've had clients that you've talked to, and they didn't even know that was a thing.
That's right.
Like they didn't even know how it was affecting them. They just saw the IRMAA and just paying it. They didn't know it fluctuates, and you can control that.
Yeah, if you're past the age 65 that extra Part B premium is solid for a year. So even if things aren't the same as it was last year, it doesn't matter. This year, you're paying more money. And if you have a husband and wife together, that extra premium is thousands of dollars a year. Well, shouldn't that go to your grandchildren? Shouldn't it go to your children? Shouldn't it go to a nice dinner or vacation? Why would it go to the federal government? So that it can pay for illegal immigrants? Listen, everybody used to be very politically correct about it, and maybe it will cost us business. I just made a decision that I'm not going to be a coward about it. I'm going to stand for things, stand for the right, say things that are honest and true, not purposely offensive. But most of the time when people take offense, understand that's a you problem, not a me problem, right? If I say the same thing in a room full of 6 people and 3 are offended, those 3 are the problem. I don't mean they're bad. I'm meaning that sometimes you get your feelings hurt, or sometimes people say the truth and it hurts. I've had that happen where I go, yeah, you hurt my feelings, and well, it's actually kind of true. Right? All of us stop being so selfish as a community and as a nation. So I think if we can offer financial products with a solid one goal in mind, which is what's the purpose of the money, and let's find the best place to match that purpose. Then we can protect people if one of them don't make it to retirement. We can provide for people that when they do reach retirement, they have a comfortable, safe way. Now they can work, volunteer, create, and not have to worry about income. I mean, isn't that amazing?
Right.
Or somebody says, I've always loved art, but nobody ever paid me for it, so I had to work as an engineer. But now I've saved up enough money, I have enough wealth, I'm creating enough income, now I can work in art or create in an area, or volunteer, or help others, or go on a mission, or do things that provide an income stream for nobody except that provided for them, and this gave them a chance to serve. That's super powerful to me and makes all the difference.
Yeah, we click on a lot of things like that. I think right off the bat, like going through COVID, a lot of conversations I was having with friends, I quickly realized, like, I don't think you and I are on the same page. I've been very open about it on the podcast, what my thoughts are on that. So if you want to go back and listen, you can. But we kind of clicked on that. It's not even, I think there's a line between like what I think, what the popular thing is my truth, right? What I think and what is actually true. What is you not lying? What is you not being super sensitive to those topics? Not you in general, but I'm just saying you in general. And people being able to just live with that, I guess. And so when you and I would talk, I've had a couple people that, since I've been around you recently, be like, did he just say that to them? And I thought, yeah, but it's true.
Right.
Like he's not coming from a negative place on that.
And my goal is to not hurt someone's feelings. But when somebody wears a mask, just this last weekend, I was at a local home improvement store, and a young lady had 2 masks on, not 1, but 2. And I said something. Now, my wife would be mortified, and most friends would just check out and go. And I said, you're pretty brave. She said, why am I brave? I said, because I've never seen somebody wear 2 masks and breathe their same air, not once, but twice, and think that that's a good idea. So you must know something I don't know. And she looked at me, because nobody will say anything.
Right.
You say, listen, the king has no clothes. Right? When you walk down the street, your zipper's open. Somebody should tell you. You got something in, your shirt's untucked.
Something in your teeth, yeah.
Yeah, you got some parsley in your teeth, or your husband's the president and he can't put 2 words together. Somebody should be embarrassed about something in your life. You should have somebody in your life who says, listen, man, you've had too much to drink. Hey, listen, you're getting a little crazy. Hey, listen, it's time to go home. Right? Something. Hey, listen, your shirt, young lady, your shirt is tucked into your pantyhose, your skirt's right. I mean, whatever people should know something is wrong, and have good loved ones, honest people around you. I have men in my life that say, Arif, what you're saying is wrong, or what you're doing is wrong, or you need to check this behavior. I respect that. Right? I have 3 sisters. They say something that matters to me. Everybody should have that person. We used to think it was the government. We used to think, well, if it was said by Walter Cronkite, if it was said by the president, If it was said by this person, it must be true. Maybe, just maybe, Fauci lied every single time he was in front of Congress. Certainly when he was being questioned by Rand Paul. Oh, what, Arif, didn't you say financial? Yes, I did. And if you don't like it, I'm okay with that. There's somebody out there who's broke with student loans. We'll just sell you a mutual fund. Go. We're going to make a difference.
Right.
We're going to make a difference, and we're going to stand for what's right and common sense. Just take an 8th grade science class. That's it. You don't have to be an MBA or anything, or a doctor, whoever. It doesn't matter. There's a difference between virus and bacteria. Right? My point is, have standards, whatever they are. You might even have standards I disagree with. As long as we're in the same moral or integrity zone, I'm good with that. But don't think that having kids that act like cats at a local high school, by the way, having kids that act like cats who are supposed to have a litter box in the female bathroom, and instead we're all supposed to just pretend to get along. I'm not playing that game.
Yeah, I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, our firm is going to be different. Maybe we'll have less clients. That's fine.
Yeah.
But nobody will ever come in and guess what we believe. Because we will stand for something. We'll be a courageous firm. We are a firm that has had 28 years of believing and saying. I've been on the radio for 20 years now, this last January. We hit 20 years and almost 4,000 radio shows. No problem. I'm sure I said something stupid at one point. I'm sure I said something wrong at one point. I'm sure. 20 years, 3,000, 4,000 shows, of course.
Sure.
But today, when there's crazy people out there and there's nobody standing up, when somebody tells you they're paying 1.5%, 2.5%, 3% fees, okay. I'm saying, okay, great. I don't mind spending money on my retirement account. I'm good with that. But what do I get for it?
Right.
Right. I'll give you $2,000 a month if you make me 10. I like that deal. Right? I mean, you that too. You made me 10. I think this is a good deal. But everybody's afraid to say that's baloney. And we're not going to be that way.
Well, I think the biggest example I can use of that is where you and I would talk, and it would be you can choose to take offense to it, or you can choose to be better. And the example I'm coming up with is when we kind of talked about teaming up and doing this. I was going out to LA to meet the team and meet the staff out there, and what you told me was, I don't want you to shave your beard off. I just want you to make it look like it's on purpose.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I had already told myself I was shaving my beard anyway before we had that conversation, but that's what made me think of, it's a silly thing talking about a beard, but I mean, that was like who I was for 10 years. I had a beard for 10 years.
It's a great place to hide behind.
Yeah. But it put me in line of, this isn't criticism from Arif. This is, I want you to be in a better place and I want you to succeed.
Yes.
And it might be a silly example, but that's what it meant to me.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's designed. Look, all of us should have somebody in your life, and your wife knows how to talk to you.
Sure.
Right? Hey, maybe that shirt is a little too tight. Or do they have a larger size, right? Or however she knows how to say, or my wife knows how to say, hey, you're gaining a little bit around the middle, or maybe that you should get a different set of pants. Those are a little baggy, or whatever it might be. All of the people in our lives, you should have somebody in your life that you can trust implicitly.
And I think it should be your spouse. Side note, but keep going.
Right,
I think it should be.
That's why on this national scale, when we watch this calamity, I think the villain in the story is Mrs. Biden. I think she's the one who should call an end to this craziness, because she said, I will love, protect you, I will be with you, I will till death do us part, whatever their particular vows were. But it had something to do with, I'm going to care for you.
Yeah.
I promise you that. And this is not a care for you. This is an embarrassment. So we'll say it. Now, listen, I don't know, in a political world, we will take very strong political stance. It will make people upset. Got it. Check that box. But I'm tired. I'm tired of being told that I'm something I'm not. I'm tired of being told that I should sit quietly and let somebody abuse me verbally, or just not going to happen. who's going to watch your children's future? Are they supposed to sit in the corner because he happens to not be able to control the color of his skin? Or who his parents are, that both of his parents are married and love each other? Is your son or your future children supposed to just sit there and be shamed? What is that? Nobody should. Whether you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian. So we're going to use our firm and our money to stand up for what's right. Take it or leave it is our deal.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. So
cool. Well, I think we'll kind of wrap it up. We're about at an hour right now. So thanks for doing this, even though we're both right here in the office anyway. I mean, there was a couple hours you had to schedule out for this.
Yes.
And you are back and forth, LA to here, LA to here.
We're always available. Look, and as long as it takes for Derick's training, I mean, you're a very committed person, somebody I have not seen in a long time, wanting to learn and get better. And the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months, I think it's been almost 6 months now.
Almost.
Yeah.
Since we initially talked about doing this, it's been 6 months.
And you've been licensed for at least 3 months now, I think.
4, yeah.
Okay. So the training is strong. It's there. It's now the next step, and we're proud to have you on board.
Thanks. All right, guys, we're getting the office set up now. If any of this stuff brings questions to you, which it should, whether you think you're super versed in this or not, reach out to us. I'd love to help. It's not a cliche. I can go make money. I can go do stuff. If it's to trade my time for an hourly wage, I know how to do that. If it's to run a business and make money on it to feed my family, I mean, hell, to be honest, I don't even have to do that. My wife can already do that. And so this really is truly, I want to help educate St. George, Utah, the United States, whoever, reach out. There's a lot of, keywords, a lot of buzzwords that are going around social media that I think mean something, but how do you implement that? Does it make sense for you? Does it make sense for your family? Does it make sense for your kids and your grandkids? And those are kind of what we're here to answer. People come to us because they have questions, and it's our job to answer and solidify the knowledge that you have and that you're able to pass on to your kids. So appreciate you guys spending the last hour with us. Any questions, please reach out. And we're now in St. George pretty much full time. So shoot me a message and we'll try and get your questions answered. Talk to you next week.